It was a dark and stormy night, and my grandkids begged me to tell them one of my scary stories. I chuckled, knowing that I had a whole arsenal of creepy tales to choose from. I began with the story of the haunted mansion on the outskirts of town, where strange noises could be heard late at night, and eerie shadows moved about in the moonlight. The children huddled closer to me as I described how the previous owners had disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only their belongings and a sense of terror. As I spoke, the wind howled outside, adding to the spooky atmosphere. But I couldn't resist adding a touch of humor to my tale. I told them about the time I had gone into the mansion with a flashlight and a can of bug spray, ready to confront whatever monster lay within. But when I shone my light on a cobweb-covered mirror, I saw that the monster was only my own reflection. The kids giggled at my joke, but I could tell they were still on edge. So I continued with more stories of ghosts, ghouls, and things that go bump in the night. And as the night wore on and the storm raged on outside, I knew that I had succeeded in giving them a fright they would never forget. Their eyes were wide open with a mix of fear and excitement, and I could see their imaginations running wild with the images I had painted in their heads. But as I wrapped up my last story, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. I had passed down a family tradition that had been passed down to me by my own grandfather. As the kids went to bed, I sat by the fireplace, lost in thought. I remembered the times I had sat in the same spot, listening to my grandfather's stories, feeling the same shivers down my spine. And so I sat there, in the quiet of the night, the only sound the crackle of the flames, and felt a deep sense of contentment. For as long as there were stories to tell, and children to listen, the tradition would continue. And I knew that wherever my grandfather was, he was smiling down on us, proud of the legacy he had left. As I got up to leave, I felt a sense of unease. Was it just the stories that were giving me chills, or was there something more sinister at play? I shook off the feeling and headed toward the door, but then I heard it, a faint whisper, almost imperceptible. I turned back to the fireplace, and there, in the flickering light, I saw the shadow of a figure. It was my grandfather, just as I remembered him, his wrinkled face, his gentle smile, his kind eyes. "Grandpa," I whispered, my heart racing. He didn't answer, but instead beckoned me closer with a wave of his hand. I approached cautiously, unsure if what I was seeing was real or just a trick of the light. But as I drew closer, he spoke. "I'm proud of you, son," he said. "You've kept the tradition alive, just as I knew you would." Tears welled up in my eyes as I realized that this was no dream, no trick. My grandfather was really there, reaching out to me from beyond the grave. "Thank you, "Grandpa," I whispered, my voice choking with emotion. And then he was gone, the shadow dissipating into the darkness. But I knew that he was still with me, that his spirit would always be a part of the stories I told, the memories I cherished. As I made my way out of the house, I looked up at the sky and saw a shooting star streak across the heavens. It was a sign, I knew, a sign that my grandfather was watching over me, that he was proud of what I had accomplished. And so I smiled and made my way back home, filled with a sense of peace and contentment that I knew would stay with me for the rest of my days.